Okay, so this is the thing where we want to see. So this is concerned with of your second nerve. So second nerve we finished acuity. So acuity is nothing but actual shape patient must want to identify. So any abnormality in the acuity can cause abnormality in this patient. That's what. Next, field of vision. So field of vision is nothing but, so field of vision is nothing but field. Field is nothing but area of eye, what it is seeing known as your field. So right eye will be having separate field of vision, left eye will be having separate field of vision. So that field of vision is nothing but when right eye is seeing that particular area is known as your field of vision. So field of vision will be normal in normal individuals. So due to any problem in the chambers inside the eye will be causing abnormality. So what we are going to do, this is the picture. So you must want to sit in front of the or stand in front of the patient, and you must want to compare, because you are normal, you want to compare your field with that of your patient's field, your field with that of your patient fields. So you consider that your field is normal. So close one eye. So one eye is the one eye indicates that same side of the patient. So here one confusion will come that when you are going to close your right eye, you must want to ask the patient to close your left eye, because your this side will be this eye will be corresponding to the field of the physician's eye. So that's what I given you a picture. Hello. So that's what I given you a picture here. So this is so important when you are going to verify or when you are going to examine your field. Don't close opposite. So that will be giving you a false. Our test will be of negative. So stand directly in front of the patient or sit in front of the patient to the level of eye and both eye must want to be in the equal range. So you must want to close the eyes and we must want to examine for. Next, what you are going to do is that, so bring your finger, so this your eye, then patient eye must want to be fixed. You must want to see patient must want to see you, and it must want to be constantly fixed. So your people and field is going to be fixed. Next, move your finger up, down, and laterally, medially, and you confirm maximum limit what this eye can see. So when the eye is seeing what you are seeing, patient is also seeing, it indicates that that patient field of vision is normal. When there is any reduction of the seeing or reduction of the field, it indicates that some visual hemorrhage or any abnormality in the retina or any chambers of the visual field. Here, two terminology. One concordity, one is homonymous. So concordity refers to defects in equal half of the field matches exactly. So each half of the field, so I told you we are having two fields here. So here you see visual field of left eye, visual field of right eye. This is important picture I got. So we are having two halves. So medial half we are telling that is known as your nasal fibers. Laterally I told you that is known as your temporal fibers. See, in that lens part one cross has given. So that cross indicates that when your medial fibers or nasal fibers are going to cross, and it is going to be carried out by the temporal optic nerve, temporal part of the optic nerve. This is the most important. So when any nasal fiber, when you are going to see the nasal fiber, that is going to be carried out by your temporal fibers alone. So any pathology in the temporal fiber will be affecting your nasal field. That is the thing I want to tell you. So visual field of left eye, right eye. So macula, lens, retina, optic nerve, optic chiasma, optic tract, geniculate body, optic radiation, occipital cortex. So these are the pathway for your optic nerve. So I told you retina. Retina consists of two fibers. One fiber is nothing but your lateral fiber. One fiber is nothing but your medial fiber. So medial fiber, lateral fiber. So it subserves this. So when it's going to a level of your optic chiasma, you see your nasal fibrils alone is going to be a decussity or crossing towards, but temporal fibers are going as such. So again, this we want to see for to identify the level of lesion. See, in case of 2, number 2, what is happening? Your both nasal fibers alone is going to be of getting affected. So you'll be losing your see here. So even though you are having affecting your medial side, see the picture of 2 this side, your temporal side of the field is affected there. So that is the thing I want to stress you here. So one, we must not think that optic nerve consists of same fibers of same side. Second thing, optic tract consists of one side of same, one side of other. That's what I want to tell you. So optic tract consists of one side of same temporal fibers, opposite nasal fiber, it will be crossing. So symptom also will be producing according to that what we are going to see on the right side end. So that is the clinical importance. So any pathology in the optic nerve, no issues, both are from the same side. So you'll be having complete loss of vision. In case of optic tract, one is from the right eye, one is from left side. So half will be of the from the right eye, half will be going for left eye. Next, coming on to the geniculate body and occipital cortex. Along with that, we can able to have pathology. This is the clinical importance of this picture I want to tell you here. So you remember two things. One is what is the difference between optic nerve and optic tract. Clearly go through. That will be giving you clear picture which level of lesion or level of lesion according to that what symptom patient may have. Coming on to the color vision. So color vision is consist of color blindness, color vision. So there are main 3 things are there. One is blue, green, red. One is blue, green, red. So one blue, red, green. These are the 3 main colors are there, which is going to be of having basic colors. So color blindness is nothing but rods and cones are there. So rod is nothing but low level. It's not going to be concerned with the color vision. So cones are capable of confirming of color vision. So any problem in the cones, we can able to have problem in identification of colors. That is the thing I want to mean here. So for that, Ishihara color plate is there. It is having 21 color plates are there, where if patient can able to identify 17 or more plates, that is known as normal. If patient is having below 13, that is known as deficient color. That's what we their book says. So these are the plates here. I told you here 21 plates are there. So here some plates are there. Here some plates are there. So when any problem in reading this plate, identifying this color, when 17 or more plates patient can able to identify, their cones are normal. For that color they can able to differentiate. When their patient is going below 13 or what anything, patient cannot able to read, it indicates that patient can have delay or deficiency in assessing the color of the particular object. That is the thing, this picture. Next, trigomacy. Trichromacy means tri means 3. Chromacy means it is of vision. So blue, green, red. So these 3 things when patient is going to identify, that is known as normal color thing. So down you see S cone, M cone, L cone. So S cone is concerned with the blue color, M cone is concerned with the green color, L cone is concerned with the red color. So S cone is concerned with S cone is having 420 nanometer. Another thing, M cone is going to be concerned with the 530 nanometer. L cone is going to be concerned with the 560 nanometer. So when these 3 things are normal, patient can able to see all things. So when any abnormality in that particular thing, it will be having single color blindness. So when particular blue alone they are not going to have, they are having S cone abnormality. Green alone, M cone abnormality. Another thing, red color, L cone abnormality. Another thing, one variety, one classification they are giving as double color. One patient may have red and green color blindness or blue and yellow color blindness. So red and green color blindness is that patient cannot able to identify your red and green color, and some conditions blue and yellow cannot able to identify. This they are telling that due to genetic abnormality, like OPN1 LW or OPN MW gene is going to be responsible for a red green color blindness. or OPN SW is going to be helpful for you for causing of your blue yellow color blindness. So generally these three things are going to be responsible for your color blindness. So this completes your second nerve examination. This completes of your second nerve examination. So coming on to the third nerve examination. Third nerve examination, second nerve, third nerve, both are going to be of correlated with. So test for pupillary reaction of light, and each pupil must want to have with test for pupil reaction. Next, shine your light obliquely into each pupil. Next, same eye and consequential eye we must want to see for, and pupil size, symmetry and irregularity you must want to measure for. These are the things you want to go for second and third nerve abnormality. So second nerve I told you it is of optic nerve, acuity of vision, field of vision, color of vision finished. Now we are coming for your third nerve. Third nerve is going to go for your accommodation abnormality. Accommodation is nothing but there is going to be a supplying your extraocular muscles. So ocular muscles are there, extraocular muscles are there. So that will be helping for patient is looking up, down, laterally or diagonally. So that is concerned with of your third nerve here. So this is the picture I want to tell you here is, so lateral rectus, medial rectus, superior rectus, inferior rectus, and superior oblique, inferior oblique. These are the important muscles supplied by or present in your eyeballs around. So down you see SO4, LR6, all the rest 3. This is the basic formula what we are forming. SO4 is nothing but superior oblique muscle is going to be supplied by 4th nerve. LR6, lateral rectus is going to be supplied by 6th nerve. Then remaining thing is going to be supplied by the 3rd nerve. So when we are going to concern with that of your third eyes, so 3 nerves are going to be involved. One is 3rd nerve, 4th nerve, and 6th nerve. So these 3 things we want to examine simultaneously. So second nerve is going to be responsible for your vision. This is the concern with the pupil. So sympathetic innervation of pupil going to go for hypothalamus, brainstem. So ciliospinal in case of the cervical, thoracic vertebra, in sympathetic chain going towards the internal carotid artery, going to orbit and supplies the pupil. Pupil it will be supplying and it will go to your one muscle is known as levator palpebrae superioris. So this is the sympathetic innervation roughly of the eye muscles of orbit, pupil and levator palpebrae superioris also. Here abnormality, any lesion in the Epstein-Barr nucleus or pupillar considered nerve fibers or in the orbit. So when these 3 things is there, it can be able to cause dilatation of pupil, that is known as miridiasis. Next, aneurysm of internal carotid artery with cavernous sinus abnormality with features of cavernous sinus syndrome is nothing but ophthalmoplegia. Again I told you syndrome is nothing but due to abnormality involving a 3rd, 4th, 6th nerve. So 4th SO4, 6th nerve, LR6 along with 3rd nerve. This can cause ophthalmoplegia. Plegia is nothing but muscle abnormality, proptosis, outward projection of your eyeballs, ocular conjunctival congestion, then trigeminal sensory loss. So along with the Horner syndrome, patient can present with when there is aneurysm of internal carotid artery. This can cause lesion in the parasympathetic and sympathetic nerve, can cause mid-side unreactive pupil there. So one abnormality is known as dilatation of pupil, it can cause. Second is that unreactive pupil it can cause. Next, lesion in the sympathetic supply of brain, it can cause constriction of pupil and ptosis. Ptosis is nothing but falling of or drooping of upper eyelid due to pathology. So when you are going to go for examination of pupil, it must have 3. One is we want to examine for direct response when light is put on the same eye. Next, consequential response to the opposite eye. Next, accommodation we must want to see. Accommodation is nothing but when you are going to see, want to see near, we want to try to see near, we can try. It must want to be seen. When we want to focus on outside also, it can able to, by patient must want to see there. If there is defective in accommodation, when this thing is there, when we are trying to focus on near, sometimes patient cannot able to see, or when you are going to focus outside also, patient cannot able to see. So we want to see the three things mainly. Then two things: afferent pupillary defect, relative afferent pupillary defect. So afferent pupillary defect is that same thing, same eye.
Internet has
Relative
spam.
hello. Afferent is that same, relative afferent is that for opposite. So afferent pupillary is that failure of concentration of either pupil to light shown in the affected eye. So relative afferent is that going to go for opposite side. So this is there in the severe lesion of the anterior visual system in of one eye. Relative afferent people is that one side will be exhibiting direct pupillary response to the light, less vigorous than opposite. So this is done by swinging torch tests here. So this is the swinging flash test. So during the thing that what will happening, so shine a beam of light into one eye, so both peoples will be concentrating, then slowly bring to opposite eye, then patient must want to show response. If it is not showing response, that is indicating of abnormality. Down PERRLA. So this you must want to concentrate on. So peoples you want to concentrate, equally you must want to concentrate, patients peoples are equal you must want to concentrate, peoples are round you must want to concentrate, reactive to light and accommodation. This and all things you must want to concentrate while examining. Next, direct people concentration to the light. Consequential people concentration to light in opposite people. This when you are going to do this, you must want to think of this to identify any people or abnormality. So this is the importance of swinging flash test. Here, when optic nerve is going to be damaged, so sensory stimulus sent to the brain is going to be reduced, so that people less responding. So that is known as, for that we will be having relative afferent pupillary effect, that is known as Morgan-Gunn people here. This is known as Morgan-Gunn people. So there will be of reflective pupillary effect caused by optic nerve here. So normally when you are going to keep here, constriction will be there. So down when you are going to remove, finally it will be causing dilatation. That is known as Morgan-Gunn people here. Next, other abnormalities. One simple physiological anicorsa. Second, Eddy syndrome. Third, Arjen-Robinson people. So inequity of pupil size will be of sometimes normal. So Eddy syndrome is known as lesion in the ciliary ganglion. It can cause loss of tendon reflex associated. When any problem is there, will be having along with it of loss of tendon reflex along with that. That is known as Eddy syndrome. Here bilateral small people with adaptation defect will be there. Here tendon reflex is there, it is going to be causing Eddy syndrome. When no tendon reflex, we are going to go for Arjen-Robinson people exam in case of your advanced syphilis here. See, this is Eddy syndrome here, where irregular peoples. Arjen-Robinson peoples also we are having irregular peoples. So Arjen-Robinson people we are having in case of advanced syphilis here. Next, coming on to the fourth nerve. So fourth nerve, as I told, SO4. SO4, it causes superior oblique. It depresses and abducts. Abducts is towards your median plane of eyeball. So when ask the patient to look down and towards medially, and patient can able to do, then your fourth nerve is normal. When patient cannot able to do this, fourth nerve can be abnormality. That's what it is there. Coming on to the third, fourth, sixth nerve. Sixth nerve, as this is going to be of longer nerve, so any problem of pressure symptoms can cause false symptoms of the sixth nerve, will be known as false localizing sign, and due to that it can be able to cause increased intracranial pressure. So these two things is important in case of your sixth nerve. Sixth nerve will be longest, so along the course anything can be able to cause compression. It can cause something symptom of the sixth nerve. So sixth nerve, I told you lateral rectus is going to be responsible for lateral movement of the eyeballs. Coming on to the fifth nerve. Fifth nerve is trigeminal nerve, which is going to be having sensory component, motor component. So sensory component, motor component. See here, this is the fifth nerve here. So it's going to be originated from the pons. So sensory component we are going to divide into three: ophthalmic, maxillary, mandibular. So motor components, it will be supplying your masseter, temporalis muscles and pterygoid muscle also. So any abnormality of this particular branch can cause abnormality in the particular branch alone. See, sensory component lesion in the medulla can cause dissociatory, in the medulla it can cause dissociatory sensory loss, loss of prick sensation with touch sensation preserved. So motor component, patient must want to be examined for mastication, muscles of mastication. Muscles of mastication is nothing but masseter, temporalis and lateral pterygoid. So temporalis muscle will be there in your temporal fossa. Temporal fossa. Masseter will be there along your, below your zygomatic arch. Another thing, pterygoids will be there inside. So we want to check for clenching. When you clench, ask the patient to clench the teeth and you keep your finger over your temporal fossa or over your teeth. When you are going contraction, when you are going to feel in your temporal fossa, that indicates your temporalis muscle. Contraction in your adjacent to your teeth indicates your masseter muscle contraction, so that you can able to examine your motor part of temporal muscle and masseter muscle. So this is the examination here. So palpate temporal masseter muscle as patient clenches the teeth. Next, for sensory function, ophthalmic division, maxillary division, mandibular division, as we are having cotton, we want to separately examine for three nerves here, as this yellow line indicates. Next, jaw jerk. Jaw jerk is nothing but reflex that involves contraction of masseter muscle. When you are going to jerk that, due to contraction of masseter and temporalis muscle, that there will be of patient lower jaw will be of tapped. It will be increased in case of your spastic tetraparesis. Tetraparesis means four limbs are going to be getting paralysis. So in that condition, your jaw jerk may be in this condition, your jaw jerk may be increased when spastic tetraparesis. Paralysis is not paralysis is that inability to move the four limbs we can able to think for. Next, sixth nerve. Sixth nerve is nothing but your abducens nerve. So it is, I told you, it is going to be supplying your lateral rectus. So lateral rectus is going to be having one function. Only one is that it will be moving your eyeball towards lateral side. So you must
excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
This is to just remind you. It's 4 o'clock, sir. 4:10.
Okay.
And we'll be completing, sir.
Okay. Okay. No problem. I'll rush up. No problem.
Yeah. I think sir can see. Sir can see that, sir.
Okay. No. That's what. I'll rush up like I can.
Now we have reached till fourth now, sir. So
no, fourth. No. Sixth now. I completed sixth now. I'll rush up. No issues.
Yeah.
Okay. So sixth nerve. Sixth nerve is nothing but it will be causing of lateral movement of eyeball. So we must not sit in front of the patient. Move your fingers towards laterally. Patient can able to do. No problem. Patient cannot able to do. That indicates your sixth nerve abnormality. Coming on to the facial nerve here. So facial nerve starts from here. So facial nerve principally is involved in case of your facial expression. It will be of motor nerve and special sensory nerve, gustatory. So it will be using in case of your all your expressions. So any abnormality in this facial nerve will cause expression defect here. So facial nerve lesions. So in case of facial nerve lesion, three things are there. One is Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, when this is going to be affecting your nerve in the ear level. Then hyperacusis, when this is going to be there in the hyperacusis, the patient will be hearing more. If stapedies is going to be a paralysis, or crocodile tears, when this salivary glands are going to be getting stimulated. Or in case of Bell's palsy, patient will be having lower part alone, leaving the not affecting the upper part. This is the importance of your facial nerve here. Next, vestibulocochlear, I told you already. Vestibular part, cochlear part, hearing and balance. Rennie's test, Weber's test, Mistick's test. So Rennie's test, Weber's test are here for assessment of hearing. Again, 512 and 128 are there. So by assessment, rubbing the fingers, thumb towards the ear, we can able to find some small sound here. So this is the Weber test I want to tell you is here. So normal, abnormal. So Weber test when it's going to be a normal, so conduction will be of both sides. When more sound is going to be of, we must not strike the tonic fork, keep in the glabella. When both side vibration is going to be a normal, it indicates that normal ear. When more sound is heard towards one ear, that indicates that that side is going to be a abnormality. Next, Rennie's test. Rennie's test is nothing but air conduction and bone conduction. So bone conduction is that you want to keep your mastoid process. Then afterwards you bring in front of your ear. So when this is going to be over there, both are normal. So first air conduction is more than bony conduction. So when you're going to keep your mastoid process, when this is going to be of present after stopping, then also when we are bringing towards the ear, patient's hearing, that patient is going to be a normal. Any abnormality in this will be indicating that abnormal Rennie's test. Here, this test is there where patient is put under supine position. Suddenly, patient is lowered quickly from the patient is put under supine position. Suddenly, we must want to make the patient sit up. So, patient is having vertigo. Sometimes it's going to be a normal. Along with that, patient is having vertigo plus nystagmus. That indicates that patient is having benign paroxysmal vertigo. Next, conduction deafness in case of infection. Unilateral sensorial deafness will be there in the cerebropontine angle lesions in case of acoustic neuroma. Next, bilateral sensory deafness in case of mitochondrial disorders. Glossopharyngeal nerve and vagus nerve. As I told you, it's going to be going for using for pharyngeal muscles. So when we are going to touch your uvula must want to contract. Failure to contraction of uvula indicates that glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve abnormality. This is the thing. Next, for glossopharyngeal nerve, I told you, put your some stick over your mucosa of the posterior pharyngeal nerve. Patient is exhibiting your gag reflex or producing some hawking sensation. Your glossopharyngeal nerve is normal. When it is not there, it indicates that patient is having defect in the glossopharyngeal nerve. Coming on to the 10th nerve. 10th nerve is going to be of more largest nerve. It supplies all the hollow organs. So patient have dysphagia, nasal regurgitation, and patient will be having stridor and respiratory obstruction as this nerve try to do. Spinal accessory nerve consists of trapezius and sternocleidomastoid. What you are going to do? Go behind the patient, put your arm firmly over your shoulder, ask to do again against your resistance. Patient cannot able to do for trapezius, same like that for sternocleidomastoid also. So here serratus anterior also sometimes patient will have winging of scapula. Hypoglossal nerve, I told you, is going to be of nerve for your tongue. So unilateral weakness we can able to have, bilateral weakness we can able to have. In case of unilateral weakness, when we are asking to ask the patient to protrude the tongue, this tongue will be deviated towards normal side because normal side is more active. So affected side will be paralysis. So that side patient cannot able to move the tongue. So this is the thing patient can able to have. Coming on to the motor system examination. Motor system examination is that we must want to see for motor bulk. Motor bulk, so muscle bulk we must want to see, movement we must want to see, speed of movement we must want to see. So muscle bulk is normal, movement is normal, speed of movement is normal. So muscle bulk is going to be reduced in case of your wasting of muscle, in case of a disused muscular atrophy, cachexia, and motor neuron diseases. Next, wasting will be there in the neuropathies and motor neuron diseases again here. Fasciculation is one abnormality where it is known as amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and neuropathies. Next, dystonia is going to be one abnormality, is genetic abnormality due to any trauma it can be there. This is the classification of dystonia: generalized, focal, multifocal, segmental, and hemi. Generalized is that for general body, focal is that for particular body. So multifocal, one thing is that segment, hemi is that apathy. Myoclonus. Myoclonus is nothing but short leg spasm, can eat or talk while eating. So it can be seen in case of epilepsy and metabolic disorders and reaction to some medication. Cramps. Cramps is also one thing will be having in menstrual cramps, irritation of the colon, vasospasm, and pylospasm. Next, coming on to tone. Tone is nothing but it is a contractile power of the muscle while in the resting position. It may be reduced or increased according to the need. it will be reduced in case of hypotonia, in case of resistance. Lead pipe rigidity, cogwheel rigidity is going to be important here. That is known as in case of your Parkinson disease, where patients both extensor and flexor muscles are going to be involved here. Parotonia is going to be a inability to relax muscles. This is going to be another involuntary thing here. Power is nothing but ability to do any work. So this is the general classification of power. No contraction, flickering, active movement against gravity with resistance, normal power. So according to that, we can able to see that this muscle will be working out normally or what. This is a Hoover's sign, Gover's sign. So Hoover's sign is going to be a seen in case of malingering or conversion disorder. So when patient ask the patient to flex the keep under affected leg, ask the patient to flex the opposite hip. So this will be done. Same patient will be inactively or doing. It will be done by malingering or conversion disorder. Hoover's sign is the seen in case of your Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. This is a thing of picture of Duchenne muscular dystrophy here. Reflexes. So reflexes are the superficial, deep reflex. I told you. Grading of reflex: absent, hypoactive, normal, brisk, more brisk. This is biceps reflex, C5, C6 for muscular cutaneous nerve, triceps for C6 and C7 radial nerve, T6 and T12 for abdominal reflex, and this is knee reflex for L2, L3, L4 femoral nerve, S1, S2 for tibial nerve. This is plantar reflex is going to be important in case of Babinski reflex. It is usually involved or positive in case of your pyramidal tract involvement, corticospinal tract involvement. This is pupillary reflex, as I told you in case of your third. Corneal reflex, we must not touch the cornea, C for effect. Sensory system: vibration, joint sense, pain, temperature, light taste, Romberg sense. Sensation: large diameter myelated colons, proprioceptive pain, vibration and touch we want to see. In case of small pain, temperatures we can able to see. Touch prick sensation is absent in case of mononeuropathies, polyneuropathy, radiculopathy, cerebral. Cortical sensory, sensory attention, agnosia, dysgraphia. These are the things important in case of the coming out to cerebellar disorder. Incoordination, ataxia and tremor is going to be of important while testing of cerebellar symptom. Finger nose test, dyskinesia, heel shin test we want to do in case of cerebellar disorder. Posture and gait, I told you, it is concerned with these are the headings where we want to go for posture and gait. For coordination, truncal stability, finger to finger test, finger nose finger test we want to see for. Then finally, gait we must want to see. Ask the patient to rise from the sitting position, walk across the room, walk on the toes, walk on the heel. Everything is normal. Patient is normal. Any abnormality we must not think for. Thank you.